Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Stephanie Sandoval Pistorius, and I am a postdoc at the University of California, San Francisco, studying deep brain stimulation in the Department of Neurological Surgery. Today, we're going to talk to you about how to create a poster, how to present your poster, and then also the different ways that you can network at SFN to help you progress in the next steps of your career. So we have great speakers today that are going to each take some time to share different aspects of either poster creation, poster presentation, or networking. We have Dr. Ao from the University of Virginia, Dr. Tropea from Trinity College Dublin, and Dr. Portman from the University of Rochester.
My name is Daniela Tropea. I'm Associate Professor of Molecular Psychiatry in Trinity College Dublin. And today I'm glad to give some hints about how to prepare a poster for SFN. And to do so, I prepared an example, and we'll go through each step a second. I just want to start saying that your poster is your opportunity to present yourself in your research. And so you want to grab people's attention. So to show yourself and present your hard work. So beside the practical information that I'm giving you today, try to think ahead on what is the topic of the poster, how you want to present the information, and what to write. So I will go through each session now, but first some general information about the poster. So the dimensions of the poster are 72 by 48 inches. And you can decide which software to use to present it, to prepare it. And the software should serve the purpose of the message you want to communicate. So if there are specific figure, you want to go for Adobe Illustrator, you may want to use BioRender and all the sources that are good for your message. In case you decide to use PowerPoint, one way to prepare it is to set the dimension halfway. So it's 36 by 24 inches, and then print 200%. So I'm going to now go in each session. And here, first of all, you want to decide what is the main message you want to give. And based on the number of figures, number of panels you have, decide on the layout. What I would suggest is to, whatever you choose, print ahead of time, because things happen. You may realize you made a mistake, or, for example, there is a problem with the printer or the shop, so you want to have enough time to correct the problem. So to start the poster, you want to have, let's say, 3 main sections. The first section that introduce your work, and so it would be maybe the abstract again, or you can talk about the introduction. And make sure when you prepare your poster that it provides the basic information even for not experts. Because you will see at Neuroscience, there are people that know your work, they come and they look at your, they know what you're going to talk about, but there are also people that just pass by and they may be curious, but they're not experts in the field. So make sure you give enough information for the people to understand the basics. If you want, you can state the problem, maybe state the research question you want to address. Remember, the easier the information is given by the people, to the people, the more they will appreciate your poster and your work. And so I recommend that you think very carefully what you want to write. You cannot change the title at this point because it's the title of your abstract, but you can definitely pinpoint the attention of the attendees on the matter that most matters to you. Then you go on the method section. And again, you want to explain the basics, even for people that do not understand, they're not expert in your topic. And for each technique you use, you may want to use a title so that people who already know the techniques may just skip that part of the methods, but people that are more interested, they can read through. And you can also add some references about the works that you are quoting for the methods. This is also true for the introduction. You may want to add the reference in the introduction. For example, if there is a big piece of work that from which your work come from, and you want also to remember the relevant facts that, let's say, inspired your research and your question. One thing that's often overlooked, methods for the statistics, do not forget to mention how you did your analysis. And then this first part, let's say, covers the introductory work, okay? Then you want to go into the result session. The result session is something that people should understand even if they're reading the poster on their own. Remember that many will ask you to explain the poster, but many can just look for a distance and see if they can understand. So make sure that they can understand what you're doing with simple, direct titles. And for example, if you're preparing a figure and the figure is showing the effect of a treatment in, and you have two groups, one treated groups and one control groups, always add a title to the figure and make sure that the title says already the results of the experiment. So instead of saying effects of treatment A, you want to state treatment A increases the activation of, for example, pathway X. So that would be easier for the person that looks at the poster to understand what you did and what's your message. So once you decide the flow information, top to bottom and left to right, keep the flow information for all the panels of the poster. Then I recommend, when possible, to use figures. Figures instead of text. Figures could be either results of an experiment or even schematics. And this is for a neuroscience perspective. The processing of visual information is much faster than the processing of written information. And so you'll make the life of your server easier if you present a very easy to understand figure rather than explaining everything in text. So the figure should avoid overcrowding, so you shouldn't have too much information. Remember to label correctly. So if you have multiple panels, you want to label each panel using the rule of the title I suggested before. And also, never forget to label the axis of the plots in case you have some plots. And likewise, if you have, for example, figures of an experiment like immunohistochemistry, make sure the labels are properly displayed. You have a scale bar. And remember, when choosing the colors, first of all, to take into account color blindness. So avoid using only red and green, but also keep the consistency in your presentation. So for example, if you have three groups, control, group A and group B, and you want to have them white, gray, and black, make sure that the groups are consistently represented in white, gray, and black throughout the poster. The other recommendation I have to give you is the font size. So consider that people will be looking at your poster from a distance. And so you want to make sure they're able to read every aspect of the figure. So organize the font for each part of the figure. So not only the labels of the figure, but also the title and the figure legend. And then when you have to print the poster, you will have a sort of dilemma whether to print on cloth or paper. Cloth, on one hand, is easier because you can fold it and transport it. And paper, on the other side, will have a better resolution. So if you have high resolution figures, you may want to consider paper. But you'll have the problem of how to transport the poster. So I want to take this chance to share with you a hack I used for several years now. You can see that in this slide, there are some dotted gray lines that I put on the top of my poster. So once you prepare the title, I will not forget about the title, I promise. And then you have your panels organized in columns. You can print your paper poster, and then either you do yourself or you ask the printing shop to do so. Have some cuts on the poster. So first cut right below the title. And then once this part is out, you can separate the other parts of the poster, which could be 3 or 4, depending on how many columns you have. And in this way, you will generate smaller rectangles. And these rectangles can be put one on the top of the other and folded. And so you can put this poster in this, let's say, a reduced format in your backpack or in your luggage. So you don't need to use the big tube. This is really personal, but I find that it's no problem then when in the poster session to reassemble the different pieces. Just use more pins and put the pieces attached right to next to the other. Of course, this is personal. If you want something more stylish, like having the whole poster, then you probably will have to use the big tube. And of course, people having virtual posters will not have this problem. So this part, let's say, is about the presentation of your results. And then the last part of your poster should be really the conclusion. So I'll increase a little bit the size. You may want to have, let's say, the final message. The final message could be, for example, a recap of the main question and what are the experiments that you did to prove the point, and then what are the results, and then the conclusion. It's a sort of graphical abstract which will recap your poster. And then in addition to that, if you have space, you can add your conclusion, which could be, for example, listed clearly. You could use bullet points, and you can even add a take-home message. And remember, the clearer is the message, short and clear, the more people will understand and the more will appreciate your work. Last, you want to thank. And so you want to have either the institution logos here, but you can also have the logo in the title session. You want to thank your sponsors and add all the references which you listed either in the introduction or in the method or sometimes also in the field. Now, last but not least, your title. So the title should be, of course, at the top, and it should be bold and big for everybody to see the title. Remember to list all the authors and their affiliation. And again, the rules of font applies also in the title. Sometimes titles have a big font for the title, but the authors or the affiliations are very poor and very small, but you want them to be visible. And if you want, you can also have the institutions here, or you can have in two places, both here and in the conclusion. So I understand that this slide that I made will be available to you in the PDF format. And I hope this was helpful, and I'm ready to take some questions when there will be time for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tropea. So we're going to do questions at the very end after everybody has presented their part of the webinar. That way we can make sure we have time for all of the information that they want to share with you. I hope that from that section, everybody now feels a little more confident and comfortable in what a poster should look like, the different components. I think that the details about the font size and all of that is really helpful, especially if this is your first time making a poster. Next, we're going to talk about now, now you have this big, beautiful poster. What's the best way to present it, right? You want to make sure that all of that work that you put into making a poster is translated into how you then share the information that is on there with those who come to your poster. So Dr. Portman is going to, wait, is this right? No, Dr. Ao is going to go through this section for us.
Dr. Tropea, that was a wonderful presentation. Thanks for kicking us off. A lot of great tips you put in there. Now that everyone's ready with their wonderful posters, my job is to kind of give you some tips, some recommendations prior to our conversation in the Q&A on how to go about presenting the poster. This is, again, a nice picture that Dr. Portman had that I'm using also for my slides of what the SFN conference can look like. A lot of people are going to be around, a lot of posters, and Dr. Tropea has already given us some tips on making the poster attractive. And my job is to give you some tips now on presenting. So I want to start out with saying the goal of your presentation should be threefold. You should want to present and share your research to an external audience. For some of you, this might be the first time you're doing this outside your institution or outside your lab. You should also use this as an opportunity to practice your oral presentation and oral communication, which is a scientific skill that's required for especially academia, but not only academia. Even if you go outside to industry or other forms or other career paths, the ability to communicate your research is really important and to do so orally. And so this will give you an opportunity to do that. And then also, for some of you, you're still in the middle of your training. It's an opportunity for you to gain feedback on your research. These interactions allow you the opportunity to not only share your research, but also to hear back from others in the field on your research. So broadly speaking, I divide this groups of tips into two aspects. One is what I refer to as the preparation, what you do beforehand. And then the second is the delivery, what you're doing on hand at the time. And in terms of the preparation, I would say that there's a physical posture to which you should try to practice beforehand. So on the one hand, prepare to stand by the side of your poster. And I have a picture here of an example from the slide where there are two individuals here as shown who are standing to the side of their posters, one to the right over here and one to the left. And that is a very inviting posture to allow individuals to walk by and to be able to look and interact with you as a speaker. So stand by the side of your poster. I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but I guess this is another example of another individual also standing to the other side, allowing space for individuals to participate and engage with their poster. Again, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I think it's important to ensure that you have enough water. You could be standing there for a couple of hours, especially because you have taken the tips that Dr. Tropea gave to make an inviting poster, and you'd be talking to several people and your mouth could dry out. So make sure you have some water on hand that you can take time to sip and hydrate well. And then thirdly, as I've already hinted at, be always inviting. So what you see with this individual is they're making eye contact, they're talking to the individual who they're engaging with, they're leaving space, always being present. And there are steps that I recommend both on the positive side as well as on the negative side to have as you be inviting. So first of all, always try to make sure you're smiling. That is an inviting posture. It allows people to want to connect with you. Connect with your eyes. We are social creatures, and I also understand that some of us may have inherent difficulties in these, so I respect that. But I encourage, as far as we're able, that we try to connect with individuals with our eyes, listen to them as we present our work. Also, sometimes you might see an individual walking by your poster, be inviting to them and offer them, would you like me to present the work? Would you like me to go through the poster? Sometimes individuals may not always be forthcoming, but giving that option allows you to do what you were prepared to do in this context. But on the negative side also, you can have negative aspects, which, for example, includes an individual like this who's doing the right thing of standing to the side of their poster, but also not really present and engaged for others who may be walking by. They're engaged in their phone. So I would really strongly encourage you, despite the fact that in our normal culture we spend so much time on our phones distracted, avoid this kind of posture. It's not inviting. And you can take out 2 hours of your time to really engage with the individuals that you spend so much time preparing your poster for. So don't look at your phone, don't be distracted, always be inviting in those positive senses. Now we can talk more about some other attitudes in the Q&A session. But not only should you have this physical posture at the poster or be prepared to have that physical posture, you should also have a mental kind of mind space posture, which I describe, first of all, as being delightful, not dutiful. That is, do not feel like you're here at this poster just to carry out a function, but be present and enjoy it. Take in, listen to the conversations, participate, give space for others to talk to you. Just be delightful and enthusiastic about your research that you spend so much time to do. As you prepare, also ensure that you're well studied in the field. Research about other individuals that are doing similar work like what you're doing. And remember that you may actually interact with some of these individuals. And it's an opportunity that Dr. Portman hereafter we'll talk about opportunities for networking. I also recommend strongly that while you are excited about your project, try to go through your project relatively fast. A number of people want to come to see your poster, and you don't want them to spend too much time at your poster because they have other interests and other posters. So try to have your presentation go through within 5, I would say not more than 10 minutes. If you're winding very long, you run the risk of having individual come to your poster kind of midstream when you're halfway through your poster, and they wait a couple of minutes and they want to start from the beginning, and you lose them. So if you can shorten the amount of time you're spending on the poster, that would be great. But also be present to answer questions. Make it inviting such that you're answering questions, but make the poster in such a way that the poster can stand on its own, but you also present, but not too long, so that you can go through a lot of people engaging that come by. All right. And then also, I've also hinted at this, not only prepare this as a mindset and prepare to stand in a certain way, but also in the delivery. I have been at posters, and we all have experienced this, where we engage individuals who are quite flat. If you're not excited about your research, if you're not speaking enthusiastically about your research, you can't get me excited about your research. And this is an opportunity for you to do that. So come with enthusiasm. And I know this is difficult for different people, but practicing this level of enthusiasm would be great. Also, as you present, make sure to allow space for the participants to engage with you. Again, people are coming to interact with social creatures. We not only want to hear what you have to say, we want to participate in it. And the best kinds of poster presentations are the one that allow space for that participation. Sometimes, a lot of times, the participation is actually clarification to ensure that they understand. And then checking with your participants to make sure they are following along. And you can also do this by making, again, eye contact with them. It's important, especially in my opinion, that you don't make eye contact with just one individual if there are several individuals at your poster, but you make eye contact with several of them, and that shows and makes the poster presentation more inviting. And with that, I'll stop here, and perhaps we can engage more with questions that may arise hereafter. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. That was really great, super helpful. I think that one thing to keep in mind when presenting your research is you don't want your presentation to distract from the information you're sharing. And so that's where the practice really comes in handy, and you can really deliver it in a way that will highlight different parts of your poster when you want to, and really engage with people. So next, we're going to hear from Dr. Portman, who's going to tell us a little bit about networking, all the different ways we can do that at SFN, the benefits, and some tips.
We've already heard some fantastic tips, about how to put together a poster, how to present a poster. And so what I'd like to do is share some thoughts about other things that you can do at the SFN meeting to take advantage of your time there. SFN is an amazing opportunity to meet and interact with all kinds of people. As you can see here from this picture, poster sessions and other activities that are going on at the meeting are incredible opportunities to get to know people in the field and interact with people. But honestly, SFN can also be overwhelming, right? It's a huge number of people, bazillions of things going on at any given time. And so I think a really important part of getting the most out of the meeting, particularly when it comes to thinking about networking, is to plan ahead and be intentional and think about why you want to network. So let's start out by thinking about that for a second. So why would it make sense for you to network? I think everybody who's going to SFN is going to be interested in meeting new people and talking with them and learning about their experiences. And so a great way to start thinking about this is to sort of ask what you want to get out of that networking. So, maybe you're an undergrad and you want to learn more about PhD programs. Maybe you're a grad student. You want to meet new people in your field. You want to think about postdoc opportunities. You want to learn about potential opportunities in industry. Maybe you're a postdoc and you're looking for collaborators. You're looking for a faculty position, or again, you're looking for a job. Maybe you're even a faculty member and you're trying to recruit people to your lab. These are kind of, if you give this a little consideration in advance, these are, I think, can be really grounding ways to help you set some goals. Setting goals, I think, is a really important way to go into SFN and to get something out of it. I think for me, and probably for a lot of people on the call today, this kind of interaction doesn't necessarily come naturally to all of us, right? I'm a card-carrying introvert. It really helps me set some goals in order to go out there and meet people and talk with people. And so do that for yourself. Take a second to think about why you want to network and then what you want to accomplish. Like, who do you want to meet? Maybe you want to meet somebody who's doing amazing work in your field and you really respect and their work is inspiring to them. So maybe it's a goal for you to, meet somebody who's giving a presidential lecture or is doing something fantastic. Or maybe you want to meet somebody in that person's lab and just hear about their experiences, talk about the work that they've been doing. Maybe you read an amazing paper in Journal Club and you want to meet people who did that work, figure out who the first author is and see if they're presenting a poster and go to that poster. Maybe you're thinking about relocating to a certain place and you want to go to the University of X for grad school or for your postdoc. And so you want to meet some people there and talk to them about what their experiences are like. Or maybe you've decided that you want to work in a particular field or you want to know more about that field. And you want to meet people who work in that area, right? Maybe you're looking for a collaborator. You want to meet somebody who knows how to do some amazing, cool technique. Or maybe you want to, meet like-minded people. Maybe you want to meet somebody else who's interested in snake behavior, or, whatever it is that's on your mind. Or maybe you're thinking more about personal affinity groups. Maybe you want to meet other neuroscientists from Pakistan, or you want to meet students who are first-generation college students like you, or first people in their family to go to grad school. Maybe you want to meet other people in the LGBTQ community, right? There are lots of opportunities to connect with all kinds of different people. And I think setting some goals in advance can help you ground yourself and check off some boxes when you accomplish those things. So how do you do those things? There are lots of opportunities. I think a really important aspect of this is do some homework beforehand. As we said a minute ago, right, there's always a million things going on at any given time at SFN. So plan your itinerary, prioritize what you want to do. If you're giving a poster, you can use this time beforehand to invite people. Social media is a great way to do this. Just let the community know that you're giving a poster and you'd love to have them come by. But also feel free to reach out to people. It doesn't hurt at all to send a cold email to somebody in your field or somebody that you want to get to know and say, hey, I really respect your work. I'd love to share with you what I'm doing. Please come to my poster. At the poster session, we've already heard this is a terrific opportunity to talk with people about your research and get feedback. But also, right, go to other posters, ask questions, engage with people, ask them about their research, ask them about techniques, ask them about what it's like to be at their institution, or questions about their career path, right? That's a great way to get to know people and what they're doing. But again, you can also invite people to your poster when you're going out and seeing posters. You could even print up little cards with your name and your poster number. You could put a QR code on there and give those out. At your poster, right? We've heard great suggestions about getting the most out of that. So I'm not gonna reiterate the things that we've already heard. A couple things that I would add there is, if somebody comes to your poster and you have a great interaction with them, ask if they're presenting, exchange contact info, because maybe that's going to be a person that you want to follow up with or network with in the future. What else can you do? There are all kinds of other things that you can do at the meeting: symposia, lectures, professional development activities. There's a great career fair that is probably relevant for people who are interested in lots of different kinds of career paths. I've already mentioned affinity groups. There are socials that bring together people with all kinds of different scientific interests and sort of personal affinity groups. Lastly, don't overdo it, right? Be ambitious. There are lots of things that you can do. There's lots to get out of the meeting, but also at the same time, do that in a way that allows you to still, doesn't completely deplete you at the end of the day and leave you just, completely drained, right? So you want to have some energy to be able to do all those things and do them intentionally. And lastly, a really important thing: there's still stuff that you can do when you get back home. Follow up. All those interactions that you've had, all those contacts that you've made, they don't mean anything unless you pursue those interactions. So send people an email, shoot them a message on social media, right? Once you make those connections, establishing them is really important. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is just have fun, right? SFN is a tremendous opportunity to meet people and just enjoy it and take advantage of it. And so with that, I will turn it back to Stephanie.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Portman. Thank you, everyone, for your great tips on how to get ready for SFN. It's coming up. It's kind of wild to think about. And so now we're going to open it up to questions. So for those of you who have tuned in, feel free to use the Q&A to type up some questions, and then we can pass them on. Let's see. Dr. A is working on an answer, but maybe we can get one also verbally here.
Yeah, so is this the question about would you recommend you save questions to the end or be interrupted with the question? So my 5-minute that's a great question, by the way. My 5-minute recommendation is your scheduled amount of talking, your prepared amount of talking. I would say should be 5-10 minutes. I would not recommend more than that. But you should allow space to be interrupted. That can take more time because you're dealing with the question specifically. So your scheduled rehearsed talk should be 5 minutes, but if you may end up spending 10 minutes with one person, but the other 5 minutes are interruptions in there. So your scheduled talk should not be 12, 15, 20 minutes, right? That's what I mean. But I think you should give space to the interruptions.
Let's see. There's a question here about being confident, how to be confident when maybe, you're at the beginning of a program, and so you're presenting a work in progress that you might not have strong conclusions for yet, maybe. So do you have any tips? Let's see, Dr. A, since this kind of aligns more with your section on how to be confident when maybe you're unsure about your results.
That's a little tough for me. If you're unsure about your results, I don't think you should present it. I think, or if you're going to present it, then you should present it with that, be transparent about that. I've done this experiment only one time, and you're an expert, you may know something, like be transparent about it. But so I guess I would suggest that you go in there not being the know-it-all, but really willing to learn, and the person you're talking to can provide feedback and provide counsel. If you present an N of 1 experiment or an experiment that was done 1 or 2 times as kind of like that's the done deal, that's a problem. That's a I think you should go in with a humility. And when you go in with a humility, you're confident about what you've seen. You've done the experiment, you're aware of it, but you're also aware of the caveats.
Great. Yeah, I think that's key, right? Knowing the limitations of what you're showing, expressing that so that they know that you know that they're there, and then maybe showing a little bit of excitement about where they might take you. What do you learn from that limited info that you might have, and where do you hope that, what next experiments are you going to go back and do, or, ask for feedback. Like, this is something that I think could be really great. What do you think? What would you think about this next step or something like that? Because still have a really, really great conversation about science without having super solid conclusions yet. So that's actually maybe when you can have the most fun talking to people about your research. And then I guess we're going to stay with you, Dr. Ayo, because the next question is, how do you keep people's attention if it's really crowded, people are jumping around, there's a big group?
This
Dr.
is
Ayo.
directed to me again.
Yeah, well, it's kind of in your category of things, but anybody can answer if anybody has any thoughts.
I'm happy to share my thoughts, but I'd like to hear. I also want to learn from this experience too, so I'd like to hear other panelists' thoughts before maybe I give mine, or maybe I won't give mine.
Let's see, Dr. Tropea, do you have any thoughts on that? How to keep people engaged?
People engaged. Okay, so I'm going to say something that may be very personal. But if you really love what you're doing and you're really having fun presenting your poster and you're very convinced about, the science, I think that's contagious. So people will actually want to know more and share, their thoughts with you and know more about what you do. I think, this positive attitude always engage people.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like your enthusiasm for your research should come through, and others would come along. Maybe another thing that I can add to, like, think about grabbing attention is structure your presentation in a way to invite people in. So remember, I said take some time to pause and check in. Give those of us who speak in a steamroller kind of way, where we just keep on going, it loses engagement, right? So if you can structure your presentation to be, you take pauses that allows somebody to jump in, and it makes them a part of the conversation as opposed to a monologue.
If I could just add a thought to that, I think it's also important to remember that there's a huge diversity of interests at SFN. Everybody's is interested in different kinds of things. And so if somebody comes to your poster and looks at it for a second and decides it's not for them, don't take that personally, right? Don't be crushed. Don't think it means, oh, I wasn't inviting enough, or my title's not interesting enough. It might just mean that person has other things that they want to see instead, right? So don't take that personally. But when people do come and they are interested, that's when your enthusiasm is really important. And so I would certainly echo the points that have already been made about that.
Great, exactly, yeah. Let's see, Dr. Portman, there's actually a couple of questions about networking. A couple of people are curious about what's the best way to exchange information. What information should it be, like your academic email address, personal email address, social media? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess I would say it really depends on the circumstance and what it is that you're trying to achieve. So I would say just sort of take the context into account here. I think young people know more than I do about best ways to exchange information on social media, so I'm not even going to venture to comment on that, because I think that is something maybe other people, maybe Stephanie, you could say more about that. But I think as an old-fashioned user of email and the phone, to me, those are great ways to make and retain contact. But I would say it really depends. It's up to you whether you want to share your academic email or a personal email. I think it depends on the context.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely been to conferences where after it's over, even some professors will add me on LinkedIn or something like that. I think it's hard to use other social media platforms for that kind of thing. But I know that there's like a lot of people don't really use X anymore, and I don't really know where people have gone from there. But if there's a good like more academic space for that, or LinkedIn, I think is a really reasonable one to share if you want to do more than just email. Or if you didn't get somebody's email, you just like look them up. And then they also had a question about how to ask for somebody's contact information.
I think you can be pretty straightforward about that. I would, approach that politely and with some humility, right? Don't demand any information from anyone. I think you can say, hey, I'd really appreciate it if we could stay in touch because I've really valued your input on my project, or if you provide some rationale for why you're interested in maintaining contact with that person, I think people are going to be more likely to be forthcoming about that. But also remember that it's just as easy for you to share your own personal information with them, and then they can decide, especially if it's sort of somebody more senior in your field, or somebody further advanced than you in their career. Maybe just sharing your own information rather than asking for theirs would be more appropriate.
Thank you. And Dr. Tropea, we have some questions about is it appropriate to maybe step outside of the classic scientific poster box? Can you maybe get creative with different sections, things like that? And then also there's some questions about color scheme. What are your thoughts on maybe neon colors and things like that?
Yeah. So thanks for these questions. I think that you have to tell a story with your poster, right? So you tell the story of the research, or why you came up with your question and what are your main findings. If you think that this story is better told with different formats, I mean, feel free to use a different approach. A way to test this would be to prepare some samples ahead of time and maybe show somebody if what do they get from that poster. Because my experience for all the presentations, not all the posters, is that sometimes when you are very much knowledgeable about your work, you tend to underestimate the amount of data that you need, the information that you need to give people in order for them to understand. So make sure that you communicate your story and they can get the message you want to hear. So if that is something that enthusiasms you and you still get through the message, it's great. But if you are not sure, and if you don't have time, you may want to stick to more classical modes of presentation.
Sorry, Dr. Portman, Dr. Ayer, I don't know if you want to add to that. That was great, Dr. Tropea. Thank you.
I think it was great. I don't have much else to add.
Awesome. And then staying with you, or I guess anybody, but given your presentation topic, Dr. Tropea, there's a lot of questions about references, best way to format them. Are they really necessary if you're kind of, really trying to use as much space as possible for your results?
Okay, so as far as I know, there is no format required, no specific format required for references. One reason why I would actually put references is because one of the people on the reference can come to your poster and they may be your future referees. So you want to make sure that you quote their work. This is very important for some people, but it's not absolutely necessary. I would recommend to put some references, but as far as I know, is not required, or there is not a strict format to obey.
Yeah, I've seen people use like QR codes and things like that too. So then that might save you a little bit of space if you need it. Great, thank you so much. And then We have some questions about, timing for networking for different positions. If you're like a year out from maybe completing your PhD or completing your postdoc, what are your thoughts? I'm gonna leave that open to all of you.
I guess I would just first say it's never too early. Um, Gathering information is something that's going to be useful at no matter what stage you're at in this process. Um, Gathering that information can sort of help you focus and refine your interests. So I would say, um, so that's certainly not something that you want to wait until a certain stage, because you can always say, well, maybe I should wait until I publish my paper, but then there's going to be another reason that you should wait. So just, go for it.
I can't second that enough to say it's never too early. Some of these next steps could take a long time, and you don't know who it would be. So if you have 3 or 4 people that you're negotiating, talking with, it's better for you to get them on your radar, because some of those people, they need to get a grant coming, and that grant may not happen in 6 months. So it rarely happens like immediately fast. I think the fourth year, I responded to the individual that mentioned that the fourth year is a fantastic time to start looking, maybe even 3.5 years in, because it could take a whole year to work all that in. Your paper gets submitted, your paper gets reviewed, all of that, but you're establishing a networking relationship with different PIs that may become interested. So start now.
Yeah. It also, I mean, given the funding climate and everything, I think planning ahead is probably really smart too, in general. And then we have a question about any tips for somebody who may have a softer voice that could be hard to hear in a crowded, large convention center with like 20,000 people walking around. What advice would you give for somebody in that position?
So I can suggest for the poster, it's better to have, shorter but clear points, so that you can put some energy in that. And the other thing could be to prepare some prints, either prints of the poster that you can distribute, or have your card. So maybe you can say, "Oh, this is great, but we can talk later." And there are other opportunities at SFN, like the social events, which you can say, "Oh, after this session, I'm going to there. If you want to know more, we can talk more," and you don't have to give long explanation in a very crowded environment right there, but you are showing that to be open to keep the conversation, and giving opportunities to meet up later or via email, for example.
Great, thank you. And then we have a question here about virtual presenters. What advice can you give for those presenting virtually at SFN on how best to network, how to attract people to see their posters, and things like that? I don't know, maybe also the SFN staff, if you can make a comment about whether there are dedicated channels for where people can network during in the virtual platform. But I don't know if any of our speakers here have any tips for our virtual presenters.
I would say this: I'm newer to virtual presentations, and I do think that they pose a little bit of challenge, more challenge than in-person presentation for networking. But at the same time, I think some of the things still apply. Be inviting. If you see somebody that you like, you're in a certain field. If you see somebody that you like that you want to reach out to, like Dr. Portman said, you can send them an email ahead of time and say, "I'm going to be presenting my stuff on Tuesday, 2 to 4 p.m. I know that you work in this space. I was hoping that I can get some feedback from you to see some of the work that we do." Nothing stops you from doing that, whether you're presenting virtually or in person. So there's still some networking things that can be done. And same thing if somebody comes to your poster and they present, um, you don't need to wait till in an in-person presentation. You have to wait till you probably should wait till the end to offer I'd like to keep up this conversation with you later. But with virtual, you don't have, because they can leave anytime, right? So you don't want to wait till the end. If you notice that X, Y, and Z person is somebody that is in your field that you can stop yourself midstream and say, "Oh, Dr. Portland, you're here, and I know your work, and I hope we keep in touch." Then you go back to your presentation, right? Because you don't know if Dr. Portman is going to stick around. So I think that there are some tips you can use for virtual to enhance you to network. But I'm glad you're thinking about networking even virtually.
Great. And then we have a lot of questions about networking. What advice would you give to somebody who is at different stages? So we have, people who might be at the end of their bachelor's degree, people in grad school, people in postdoc. What is there specific tips you would give those people at different stages?
I guess I would say that you think about the stage that you're at and what your goals are and what you want to accomplish, right? Is it you want to learn more about potential opportunities for graduate school programs, or you want to learn more about potential opportunities for a job in industry, right? I think you use that your career stage to help set your interests and prioritize your goals. So I think that I guess, yeah, that I think that's what I would say.
That makes sense. And I think SFN also caters to that a little bit. They have the graduate school fair for maybe people in undergrad who are thinking about grad school. This year, there's going to be a job fair for maybe people in their postdoc who are thinking, or grad school postdoc thinking about next steps for careers outside of academia. There's also, it might be a little late for signing up, but there's like roundtable discussions the Saturday night where you can chat with people on different topics, including like careers and things. So yeah, I think that's really good. Think about what stage you're at, and then there are resources available for that. But I think goal setting is really key for that. So thank you, Dr. Portman. And then we have a question here about presenting your results. Is there how different should your presentation be between a poster and a paper, if at all? Or is it okay to present the data the same way on a poster as you would for a paper?
Okay, so maybe I can try and say, so in the paper, you have more room for details because they can, read and take more time. While in the poster, as you suggested, don't take too long to present. You want to give an immediate impression of what the results, but then make sure that you can follow up. So the style should be more, let's say, concise, I would say, in the poster, but that should not prevent you to continue the conversation or even to, refer to other material that you have published or that you would like to mention to discuss more in depth of your results. So the general approach is the same. In fact, it's, what is your research question, the results, and the conclusion, but you have more time in a paper. So keep that in mind, but be ready to expand in future interactions.
Great, thank you. And then we have a few minutes left. I just want to give everybody an opportunity to maybe share some last advice for preparing to present at SFN. Let's start with Dr. Portman.
I think we've heard a lot of great suggestions and ideas. I just saw that somebody put a really excellent suggestion in the Q&A, which is when you're presenting your poster, sort of come prepared to provide your contact information. I've seen, this is not necessarily appropriate for everybody, but I've seen people hand out little, 8 by 11, 8.5 by 11 copies of their poster to people if you really want to sort of spread the word. Or, having cards to give out with your contact information or with a QR code can be a terrific thing. But I guess I would just reiterate this point that planning ahead, setting some goals, and preparing and thinking about what you want to accomplish at the meeting is really key.
That's great. Dr. Ayo?
Yeah, this has been fun. I'm glad to hear a lot of engagement, and actually glad to hear a lot of people wanting to network. Maybe my simple theme overall is there's a concern of appropriate and non-appropriate ways to figure out networking, to figure out presenting. I just want to say, first of all, we're human, and there's no, scientists are just as human as anybody else. So there's no like real big rules. If you mess up, you do what you do in real life. You apologize. You find, there's nothing wrong with anything. Like there's no secret book on how this is done, right? So just go in. If you feel it, you talk to somebody that you connect with them just like you would do in real life. You get their phone number, maybe not phone numbers for PIs, but get their email, accounts, send them, write your email and give them a sheet of paper, right, of your email. So just be natural. We love to engage. If you felt like you connect with somebody, just do it. Don't have to feel awkward about stuff. And if you do feel awkward, be transparent about it. That came off wrong. I didn't mean to say it this way. And we go on, and stuff. Just come have fun. Be enthusiastic about it. We're all fun to be around.
I like that. Thank you. I actually, it reminded me of something that somebody said to me once. They said, you do the best work. You're the best scientist being authentic to who you are. And so following kind of that train of thought, that just do what's comfortable for you. And then Dr. Tropea?
So last, I'd like to say that I've learned during the years that the more people you know, the better it is. So networking is a great skill. But if you exchange card, I would give a tip, because Christmas will not be far away. Send Christmas wishes or New Year's wishes, because that it's more inclusive. Say, I wish you a wonderful 2026. I hope we'll get the chance to meet again. And to sum this with a stick.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. And then I just want to add a little bit to that. I think that as a trainee, it can feel like everything is make or break. It can feel like we're talking to you, giving you all this advice for how to present at SFN, how to prepare your poster. So it might feel like everything is very, very important, which it is important. You want to do your best work. But it's fun. And my experience at SFN is everybody's really nice. It's very rare to get the person who's coming and really like drilling you on your work and things. And so everybody knows that, everybody's presenting fresh data. They're still working through it sometimes. And so I think that having fun with it, enjoying it. And if it's your first SFN, this is your only first SFN. So hopefully you have fun. And so with that, I just want to thank our speakers and then thank all of you for tuning in. So hopefully we'll see you at SFN.